Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but you don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Well, it is Tuesday, and, got some crazy stuff going on here. Well, let's come over to the charts here. Oh, it's time for rollovers. For some reason, I feel like my screens are a little bit too far to the side. Fine. Okay. So in ZN yesterday, man. So like we're up here for most of our session, right? And we did get it to come down here, right? That was like the range that we played. But like, look at what happened after we left. And we ended up getting another one of those 9 basis points day. Pretty aggressive change in interest rates. We are now at 3.89 on the 10-year yield. S&P 500 continues to just kind of go sideways. Here we got oil up yesterday. Gold and silver. Well, gold and silver actually weathering that pretty well. And we got copper up really good as well. Okay, and then I think I have to make a new chart here. Hold on. Duplicate in new tab. ZW. Wheat. So wheat has been doing some crazy stuff. It looks like they've come back, but man, they were up big time yesterday. It was like a 10% move. Okay. So this situation that we've got going on in Ukraine with wheat and the Baltic Sea and all that is kind of starting to reach a breaking point. The U.S. administration has kind of been behind on these things. You know, this has kind of been the story of the Biden administration is like they don't catch things until it's like already like a really big deal, and then it's all hands on full court press, right? So I'm going to be watching to see if we start to see that panic from the Biden administration on the prices of wheat. Because, like, what are we seeing? Like, wheat's up, copper's up, oil is up, right? All of the commodities are pushing again. So this very much feels to me like deja vu. This is just like when we first started to see inflation rise. It was like all of the indicators like the CPI and things like that all kind of suggested that things were okay, but the commodities were rolling, right? So that's where we're at today. And now, since we had such a big move in the treasuries yesterday, I'm a little bit unsure what to do with this today. I think that the commodities moving could potentially push us a little bit further. I think 3.9 is not too far away and that we could potentially touch that. But we do have, well, let's see here. And okay. It's not until later. So we have CB Consumer Confidence and Richmond Fed Composite at 10 o'clock. There's also a 5-year note auction today. That's a really big order, relatively speaking, down there at 27 in the 5-year. Good morning, Amir. Well, they are selling at the moment, at least. I'm like, I'm not sure quite what I want to do here. And the treasuries are like, oh yeah, Seth? Well, we think that you want to sell it again. Oh, no. I said, well, we might be able to get 3.9 and they're touching it almost. I feel so gypped yesterday, right? Because I totally had it. I sat through a lot of heat on it and everything. I only made a little bit on the move, and then after I got out, it really got going, and it was like a 9 basis point move. Right? I have been in the mode of I don't want to hold trades past my session, and I want to stick to that for a while, but man, you lose out sometimes when you do that, right? Here in the treasuries, I really think sometimes the game is you get in and you just hold it all day. So let's come around. Oh, by the way, yesterday, we had that drop in Bitcoin. Seems to correlate with when WorldCoin came out. So I didn't really know a whole lot about this, but apparently this is a coin created by the creator of OpenAI. And that's why that's a big deal. And it does look like that there was some guys that had money on the blockchain and they moved over to WorldCoin, and that is why Bitcoin fell. And that just that is like a huge flashing red flag that the liquidity in Bitcoin is awful and that it does not take very much money to just completely change the entire chart in Bitcoin. And, they've been kind of buying it, but like, seems like those guys are done. If somebody were to come in short here, they could really create a lot of chaos. That doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but there's so much potential on the downside there in Bitcoin if somebody comes in and sells it decent. What's this? Katie Thomas, lead at the Kearney Consumer Institute, shares her thoughts on the consumer mania around Barbie movie. Because I had a thought about the Barbie movie. I know my opinion on the Barbie movie is so important to you guys, right? Because people are, a lot of people are upset that the movie doesn't treat men very well and that it's like radical feminist propaganda, I guess you could say. Because they don't return the world to like an even space or anything like that. They're just like, no, we're going to go back to Barbies are in control of everything. Okay. But it seems to me that the real message of the movie is that the way to a fulfilling life is mindless consumerism. That seems to me like that's what Barbie is all about. And that bothers me greatly. And when you look at all of the marketing and everything around it, it fits it so perfectly, right? What's going to make you happy? Going and paying money to go and, which honestly, movies are too much right now, right? Like going to a movie theater, too much. Go and see this Barbie movie. Have the picture taken of you in front of the poster. Post it on Instagram so that everybody else wants to consume that thing too. Right? It's way more devious than it appears on its face, right? I think that this mindless consumer kind of way of life that has been pushed on my generation is more harmful than this other stuff about men versus women and etc. etc. Mindless consumerism literally saves our generation from itself. Well, maybe. I don't think it's good for you. But I mean, I'd take it a step further. Like they're saying, don't have strong relationships, don't have families, just be a consumer. Right? And a lot of women are doing it. And what happens when you're old and the consumerism doesn't really do it for you anymore, or you no longer really have the ability to consume, right? Our generation would go extinct without Disney Star Wars. Uzi, are you being sarcastic? I feel like I'm being a little slow here again. Oh, dude. It really is like, so like one of the things that I see over and over and over again is all these people that are like on TikTok. I really think that TikTok pushes this because I don't necessarily like it. It will push me ideologies that I don't like. You know, it will push me creators that I don't like. And it is almost always towards either divisiveness or conspiracy theory nonsense. So there's all the time, like, I'll see a poster, I'll see an influencer come in and talk about something that's true, and not even true, but true and relevant and important. Like this corruption that's going on with Biden. It is like pretty crazy stuff, right? Media's kind of ignoring it, but it is pretty crazy stuff, right? But if they come in and they're presenting it in the conspiracy theory lens, I immediately scroll. I don't want that stuff because I know that all of the other content that I'm going to get from them is conspiracy theory nonsense, right? And I don't want to expose myself to that. Or another one was yesterday. There was this incident that happened a couple of days ago in Germany, I guess, where a bunch of people from an organization called Stop Oil or something like that were sitting in the street, and this lady was coming out and yelling at him and saying, like, there's a baby that needs to go to the hospital and you guys are going to kill them. And the protesters wouldn't get out of the road. Oh my gosh, it made me so mad to watch that. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, TikTok is trying to make me mad because I like watched one video and then it started to try and show me a bunch of them, right? Like it is intentionally trying, and it does not really push. So unless you go to this STEM channel, it does not really push the kind of content that would really actually be the best for you, you know? Kidults. Anyways, so one of the things that it will try and show me a lot is these, I'm going to say younger millennials, because I'm like 35, right? And it's showing me people that are more like 26 to 30 now, right? And they're complaining about everything, you know? Housing is too expensive. I don't make enough, all of these sorts of things, right? And like I look at it and it's like, well, you don't have any kids, you're not in a relationship, and you have enough to feed yourself. So why is your life so terrible? Oh, because you don't have enough money to participate in the mindless consumerism. That's what it's really about, isn't it? So you need to have enough money to become a consumer. Because because listen, they need you, especially if you don't have the money, right? It's just the most bizarre thing to me is that the less money you have, the more likely you are to be the consumer, right? The rich people, they don't make it up because there's not enough of them, and they prefer to have assets rather than to consume things, right? So they really need like the middle class and especially the lower middle class who consume as much as possible, and everything in the marketing and the culture and everything is geared towards trying to push you towards consuming things. It's not just like here's the thing, here's an exercise for you to do. If you feel like money is, you have a little bit of extra money and you're thinking about what to do with it. Okay. Write down all of the things that you want. Okay. And then ask a question about this thing. Okay. Why do I want this thing? What benefit does this thing provide? Long-term benefit does this thing provide to my life? Does this thing make me more productive? Is this thing an asset or a liability? Right? Because what I think you're going to find is that most people, the first thing that you get money in, what's the first thing that I want to go and do? You tend to be driven towards consuming something. And then you write everything down and you go, oh, well, here's this thing actually here is actually the most important thing because that's the thing that would benefit my life the most. And yes, if you don't have kids and get married and all of these other things, it really is like you become an endless child. Fed getting inspired by Barbie leading. Well, I don't know how much I don't know if Barbie necessarily outperformed or anything. Barbie is going to be the big story just because it's like in the most successful movie so far this year. Consumerism is a bad thing. Well, let's say that unchecked, mindless consumerism is a bad thing, right? We do need people to spend money, right? Let me say it this way. Being a consumer is not a bad thing, but consumer culture is a bad thing, in my opinion. Wow. Barbie earned $365 million on its opening weekend. No cartoons, no video games, comics, cultivate skills, special time. Well, okay, but like, here's the thing. Okay. So like you come in and you're like, okay, I am going to develop skills. Okay. So I am going to, this downside is not stopping. I'm kind of wondering if we did get to 3.9. I'm going to wait a little bit. I don't know if this is one that I want to jump on board. Okay, so then you decide to get into some like new hobby. Okay, so like let's say that your new hobby becomes woodworking, right? Dude, there is so much great stuff that you can buy. Have you ever been to rockler.com? Oh my gosh. See, here I am. I'm promoting consumer culture. All right. Rockler.com. This is like the new style online shopping website for woodworking, right? Oh my gosh, dust collector with canister filter. Save up to $80. Okay, they got like different clamp sets. $200 just on clamps. Can you imagine? Different hoses for your air filter. It just goes on and on. They have all of these things. Okay, yeah. So one of the things is that they get all of these different types of jigs. So there's like hundreds of different types of jigs that you can get to help you make certain projects and stuff like that. Like it just goes on and on and on. And so then all of a sudden, yeah, I fell in love with drywall work when I needed to do it. And yeah, I can hit up to level 5 tools and buy $3,000 worth of drywall tools. But all I needed was a pen and a 4 and 8 inch knife. Yeah. Anyways, so the hobby ends up becoming another trap to lead you towards consuming. Right? Like video games is an interesting one because I tell you what, the more successful you are, it seems like the less interested in the video games that you get. Because when in video games, when you're a kid, Like that's one of the only places that you can really get that dopamine, norepinephrine hit for reward from being successful, right? You can be successful in the video game, and then you have to be successful at life to be able to feel good about yourself, right? That's the trap of video games, man. Especially those freaking RPGs, man. RPG, you're not doing anything. You're just like attacking the same enemy a trillion times. You're not really doing any like real work, right? And then it rewards you with level ups and all of this sort of stuff, right? And when you go out into the real world and you get a promotion at work or something like that, it really makes what you were experiencing in video games seem like trivial, and it kind of makes you go like, oh, I don't want to spend time on that. But I would be very careful about saying that like video games are completely worthless, okay? Because if you're playing video games can have very positive effects on your brain and everything. So I would continue to play games, but like be very conscious about what you're playing. Don't play mindless games. Play games that require you to think. Play games that require you to act and require you to use your visual spatial skills. Like I think Tetris is a great game. Play Tetris regularly. Things like that, because that keeps your brain sharp. That's a tool that can keep you sharp. And for you traders, you go and play Tetris like 30 minutes, an hour, something like that. Does help. I get that from the fact that my yard looks good whenever I work on it. Yeah. Games do have a purpose in the sense of keeping your mind and reaction sharp, but plopping yourself in front of the screen for 12 hours. Yeah. Totally. And I don't know. Because the thing that, there's this other extreme that it kind of bothers me a little bit, which is like this hyper trad movement where they say what you really should do is get married and then go move into the mountains and start a farm and just live completely off the grid, sort of a thing. I'm not down with that. This is some sort of a philosophical political movement. I'm not so sure that that's a healthy thing. Okay. But here's what I would say I would do. I would pick something that is old and is considered maybe outdated or, hey, drywall is actually not a bad one, right? It's these things that are like manual labor and are undervalued by our society, and learn to do it and do it well as a hobby. Like I think woodworking is a really good example. There's a really good one. Woodworking, working on cars, farming would be a good one. There is like real value in kind of learning these livelihoods that are kind of dying out, I think that you should keep the craft going, that you should pick something to help keep a craft going, even though like society doesn't necessarily need it. It's maybe not necessarily very profitable, etc., etc. Most of these trad guys couldn't survive maintaining their own homes. Yeah. Well, you know what? One of the things that I think happened though, this is what I think happened to me, is that like I have helped my dad do a lot of house projects. Like we finished a basement. I think we've finished 2 or 3 basements now at this point, right? He did a lot of wiring because he did the electricity stuff for those basements. Just all sorts of things like that, right? But I don't think I could do it by myself. I think sit back and think about it. And I'm like, how did he know how to do it? And now he's shown me how to do it, and I still don't think I know how to do it. Well, I think it was because he had to actually do it too. And maybe at one point do it on his own. And I didn't. I always had somebody helping me, you know? And so it didn't retain in me the way it should. So I think that we got coddled a little bit too much. I know people who mow lawns for a living that make better money than both of us do, really? Well, I guess if you owned the business. Owning things is a thing. It really is like one of the problems that our society is going to start facing. And we're kind of at the point where we can just kind of see that it's a problem. 5 to 10 years from now, you're going to see that it's a really big problem, right? Is that there's going to be these people that have businesses and they're in their 60s. They want to retire. But in order to retire and pull all of their value out of their business, they need somebody to buy their business from them, right? And some of these businesses are probably things where like it provides an okay living. It doesn't make you rich, but, you know, it sustains itself. And probably like all of the other businesses can't really do it, but this one business that's established, they can, you know? So like, you really do need those businesses to get passed on to somebody, you know, that can actually pick it up and keep it going. Otherwise, it just stops being a thing. Well, with roofing, I can see. It's man, when you add labor onto things, like I made that like gate, which man was hard work. We put a lot of work into that. And I think when I calculated it out, we spent like 20 or 30 hours making it, which was a lot, but probably too much. But anyways, so like when you factor in labor into it, like the materials and the labor, you're talking about like thousands of dollars for this stupid gate. Like nobody would pay that, you know? But there are some things where people don't have any choice. They have to pay it, right? And then if you're able to correctly harness it in some way, yeah, you can make bank. So like owning a roofing company, absolutely. In a world of fat, doughy, whiny, purple-haired hypochondriacs, learn plumbing, carpentry, electric, drywall, tiling, flooring, roofing, and yard. Well, that's all just house construction, right? House construction. And I mean, it is, you're totally right, though. I mean, I really wish I could get more data on this. How much does the lack of skilled labor play into the current housing problems that we're having? Yeah, each of them are. That's true. But it sure seems to me, I'm just trying to point out that it sure seems to me that like the thing that we need the most in our society right now, or that everybody is telling me that we need the most right now, which is more houses, that nobody wants to do the jobs that are necessary to make that happen. What's with that? What's with that? Okay, so Gus said, great video, by the way, on volume profile. So I think it really was a good video. Like, I had like a ton of B-roll footage. I thought the script was really good. I didn't think that my delivery was the greatest. Although it was kind of weird. Like, I got a few more comments that were like, this video gave me cancer or something like that. I don't know if it was like they felt that it was too complicated or if there was something they disagreed with or what, but overall, like, I got a lot of comments. It looks to me like, and it got more views than usual. It got up to 300 on the first day, which is higher than usual. Used to be 100, then it used to be 200. Now it's 300. That's like, wow, cool. So yeah, I think it was a good video. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it. I want to make the one about smart money concepts now. I really want to make a video about smart money concepts that pisses those guys off. Like it should be a video that the majority of people go, oh yeah, smart money concepts is, I shouldn't bother with that. Okay. But the people that are like really invested in smart money concepts and are like, you know, influencers and stuff, they should just absolutely despise the video. Would you suggest any DOM? Well, so I use the Jigsaw DOM and I think the Jigsaw DOM is the best. Okay. The Jigsaw DOM is slightly on the pricier side. I mean, most of these platforms are going to be, you're going to pay for. So the next step down from that is Sierra Charts. Sierra Charts is a little bit cheaper than than Jigsaw. Okay. And then if you want to go for free tier, you want to go, what is it called? Watchtower or something like that. What is it called? It gets called a bunch of different things because everybody has their own like version of it. But I think it's called Quant Tower. Quant Tower is one where a lot of brokers have it for free. And that has a decent DOM in it. So yeah, like Optimus calls it Optimus Flow. Wait, did I miss a comment there from you, Uzi? It says you'd get a ton of views. I think it like throttled one of your messages. Wait, if I come back to live chat instead of top chat. Hey, Greg. Backtest question. The ES continuous contract, how far back, though the price may be different, irrelevant numbers, would the charts match the downloaded? Okay. This is a good question. Don't use back adjusted. Is my policy. So when if you're talking about the volume profile video, the values that you're getting are non-back adjusted and it switches on the Thursday. So like the ES futures, for instance, they stop on the third Friday. They stop when the options expire. Okay. But the rollover is basically a week before that. So it's a week before that, there's a Friday, but the Thursday is actually like the rollover day, right? And I can't remember if I included that day or excluded that day, but that's basically when I switch, right? So that's how I'm picking the contract for the backtest, right? And yeah, so don't use back adjusted. Yeah, it did. You'd get a lot of views if you made a video about smart money concepts. I hope so. Amir is saying it's free with CQJ data. Which one are you talking about? I don't see which one you mentioned. Yeah, I'm not so like, oh, Quant Tower. Okay, yeah. Yeah, anyways, I'm not a fan of the back adjusted. So like when you're doing your charts and you're trying to do technical analysis on a daily chart, then you back adjust it, right? But I would recommend going into your data and turn back adjustment off, especially for back testing. This is just better that way. So question. When you make a video about smart money concepts, okay, what should the title of the video be And what should the thumbnail be? Because I was thinking of going with why your smart money concepts setups are failing. Something like that is what I was planning on going with. Because the whole thing is that after 2020, there was this time period where it seemed to work really, really well. And more recently, it's been failing very consistently. Right? They'd be hate views, but they'd be views. I'd love that. Because you go on like the Reddit, like you can sense it. Like there are so many people that are sick. There's this whole group of kids coming in that are new to the markets, and they're all being indoctrinated with smart money concepts, and everybody else just despises it. Right? So there was even a comment on the video yesterday. Let me pull that up. I mean, it was a good comment. It was a good comment, but I could tell that he was talking about smart money concepts. Yeah, it was Caleb. I wonder if your poke at conspiracy theorists relates to the view that the institutional traders / market makers do things such as stop hunting, etc. Mind you, there were criminal investigations who searched for market manipulation. So if that's what you're getting at, it's really the doubters who are the so-called conspiracy theorists, right? So that was like, oh, okay. So are you in the smart money concepts bucket? But it was kind of interesting. Like, okay, so what were people actually prosecuted for? Well, people were prosecuted for spoofing. People were prosecuted for spoofing, which is a different sort of a thing. So what is spoofing? Well, if I want price to move down, what I could do is I could put a really big offer at 111.20. And if I do that, a lot of robots will read that imbalance between the flows and market sell 19.5. And if you continue to put that pressure on, it kind of entices people to continue selling, so that you don't have to use as many contracts to keep it moving, essentially. So that's spoofing. And the issue and the flip is you put that big order there so that people sell, and meanwhile you're taking limit orders, and then you get rid of that order. Those guys are all going to puke, and then price goes a little bit higher, and you had absorbed against this, so you've got a little bit of a profit baked into it, right? Or if you're trying to accumulate a lot of contracts, it helps you accumulate the contracts, right? Spoofing is illegal. It was prosecuted, okay? But like this whole thing of like you buy a bunch of contracts and then you sell a bunch of contracts, that's just trading. That's not market manipulation. And the idea that there is like some sort of a set pattern that you can follow that tricks everybody is ridiculous. Because the whole thing is that the market arbitrages these patterns out, right? Now, there are some interesting things about execution where it's like if you sell it a bunch and then you buy just as much back the other way, the tendency is that the market will actually end up a little bit higher than when you started because of the inverse sine law, right? You created a wake behind you, and so the impact of your when you buy it back, those orders have more impact because of what you did to the liquidity, right? But the problem with that one is it kind of makes it hard for such manipulation to be profitable, right? Selling it a bunch and then buying it a ton is not net profitable, right? You have to sell it a bunch, and that selling has to somehow bring in like tons more sellers equal or greater than the amount that you had just spent in order for that one to really work out for you, right? Yeah. Here's my ICT is that, yeah, so there's one of the things that I think I'm going to start out with on that video is, I could spend a lot of time talking about the origins of it and the people that are pushing it, because there's a lot to be said there with the dubious origins of, quote, smart money concepts. But it doesn't matter. What matters is the actual performance of the market. What does the market actually do? What can we actually prove? And there's just no evidence for any of these kind of behaviors that the smart money concepts people promote. And as far as I can tell, it's a strategy that became popular on YouTube and had a little bit of success because of its YouTube popularity, which then flipped and it's turned into eating you alive, right? And yet Jim Cramer suffers from the same issue. Any stock that Jim Cramer comes out and endorses starts having tons more activity and makes it difficult for you to really actually make money on it. The trick is get the stock early, wait for Jim Cramer to endorse it. When he endorses it, price spikes and then you sell it, right? That's that game. And like this is the thing that always kills me about Jim Cramer, because everybody bashes on Jim, but if you read his books, he straight up says, like, this is the problem, this is what happens, and here's how you can play it. Like, he straight up tells you how to do it. He straight up says, if I endorse a stock on my show, my evening show, don't go and buy it the next day. Don't wait for everybody. If you really, really love it, then wait for everybody to forget about it. No. Okay, so the first thing that you do is you download the CSV file and put it into your cache folder, right? Then in NinjaTrader, under... let me pull it over here. No, what did I just do? Oh, I changed the workspace. There we go. Okay. That was weird. Okay. In NinjaTrader, you go Tool, Options, Market Data, Global Merge Policy, Merge Non-Back Adjusted is what you would want to do. Okay. Then you would come into the strategy analyzer. Maybe I shouldn't open the strategy analyzer. But from there, you just select the time period and so forth. Now another thing that I would maybe do before you backtest it is just open the indicator on a chart, because it won't have in the CSV file the most recent days, right? So I would go in with on a chart that maybe has like the last 20 days on it with tick replay turned on, and so that it will go in and export the most recent days as well. That's another thing that you should do before you try and backtest it. I linked it in the video, right? So you come over here to Discord, or you click the links in the video, or you come over here to Discord, and you go to Downloads, and then there's a volume profile strategies, which has the indicator and the strategy, and then there's this CSV file. So you download this CSV file and put it in your cache folder. And then, yeah, you could take the strategy that I made and you could like adjust it. Okay, so the data that I gave you, or that's in that CSV file, basically goes back to like 2011. It's like from 2011 until last week, I think. It goes back. Now we're at 3.91, so this has been much further than I anticipated. They're definitely forming a hole at 20. But it kind of seems like the seller is just not giving up. Now, we did have, going into this, we had some buying, and now we're only down about 3,000 from that high. So the actual change in cumulative delta to get down here is not extreme. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, it could be a bad thing because it could mean that there could be way more to come if they're really going to continue selling. But it could also mean that either activity is actually relatively low today or that the flows are just a lot more balanced. And I think it's probably the case that the flow is a little bit balanced because it doesn't seem to me like the volume has been low relatively. And there's this monster order here at 25 still. Which like if you're short in the 5-year, what do you got here, Octavius? Yeah, there's some big MBOs in that. Yeah, there is. If you're short the 5-year, to see it come right down to that big order and then not touch it is like probably not what you want. There is a little bit of oh, okay, it ticked back up. It looks like we're getting another currency-driven move. The Japanese yen is getting crushed. Oh, Greg, $25. Thank you so much. We've been, I really appreciate it, guys. Like, I don't need the money, but the show of support means so much to me every time that somebody on the stream donates, and it's been happening a lot more often. So I really appreciate it, and I hope that that's useful to you, because even though I don't think that these kind of like volume profile strategies are like profitable strategies, I think there's some real value in going in and back testing it and thinking around with it and kind of seeing how it behaves and stuff. Because there are some interesting stylized behaviors in there, right? Especially, like I said, I think that they probably have more to do with volatility more than anything else, but it is there. So worth playing around with. One person was saying, well, the point of control matters more when we open up within the previous day's value area. The trades that I tried were more the opposite. You are outside the value area and you trade it on that it's going to come back into it. But I tried the other way around. I hadn't heard of a setup that was explicitly, okay, if we're in the previous day's value area. Maybe the trade is if we open within the previous day's value area and then we try and test the value area high or low, then you take the trade on it going back to the point of control maybe. But I tried a bunch of different things, right? Bunch of different things and did all, like tried to fit all of the parameters with machine learning and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, also having that data going back to 2011, big deal. Like, to get the data to do that yourself, you'd be paying like a few thousand. Oh, our music stopped. So, want to come in here to Zero Hedge, see if they've got any interesting stories here just before the S&P 500 open. U.S. home prices jumped by most in a year in May, Case-Shiller data shows. Really? I got my house taxes the other day, and my house had not appreciated as much as a lot of other people. I had seen like a 50% increase in the value of my home, but all of the houses that people are showing me on TikTok and everything like doubled in the same time period. So I'm like, although I don't know if there's many very good comparables around me. So offers just increase. Oh, I do kind of see that actually. The book is a little bit thicker today. I guess it kind of got a little bit thicker yesterday, but it's at the beginning of the session yesterday we were like in 1600s and now we're at 1800s. But they're still toying with this big order in the 5-year. I kind of wonder if it's going to happen. This is the kind of setup where if they do take it out, there's probably going to be like some drama around it. Like I love to see that they trade through it and then it stops down through for a few ticks and then reverses. That happens a lot. U.S. Reaper drone severely damaged by Russian jet intercept over Syria. Have we been looking at the wrong curve? That looks interesting to me. And then we're back to the... Okay, so I was seeing a little bit of a machine gun there. I mean, it sure feels to me like it is going to go through. I guess what I could do... You're on sim. Is just try and be before she goes. I think in this situation, just the pure setup is probably like 50-50. But the cell pressure seems pretty good. I think it's pretty likely that the 5-year does bust that order. You have no idea. Are you talking about how do you use it on your own? So if you rewind the stream a little bit, we were kind of talking about it, but you save the CSV file to your cache folder, and then you install the indicator and the strategy that's in the zip file by taking the zip file and importing it into NinjaTrader. Then add the indicator to a chart to make sure that you have the most recent day. Like add it to a chart of like the past 20 days with tick replay on. And then you can run the backtest. Oh, I wouldn't trade with it. with the volume profile thing, I wouldn't trade with that. That was the whole point was that it wasn't a very good strategy, right? But the overall trading here is, okay, what are the flows that we expect to see today? So, well, for one thing, we have a Federal Reserve meeting this week, and so you are seeing people hedge, and it's probably people hedging against higher interest rates, right? So you're getting selling from that. You're also getting some, like a lot of commodities are starting to kind of jump up. So I think that inflation might start to be a little bit of a pressure. So you can see selling from that. And then another thing that's going on is there's a 5-year auction. Did they just cancel the order in the 5-year? No, they traded it. Yeah, it was at 25. Okay. That big order is probably related to the 5-year auction, right? They did stop through a little bit, but I didn't get as much as I wanted from it, did I? They stopped through for 2 ticks, but I wanted a little bit more in the 10-year. Okay. So you got a 5-year auction, so people might be hedging and or positioning themselves for that, which tends to be sell into the auction and then buy after the auction. But it gets kind of weird with auctions. That one's kind of hard. I don't have enough information to predict the auction itself. S&P 500 is looking a little weak here. And we're getting lots of currencies moving. The dollar's moving up. Japanese yen is moving down. Okay, so overall, I think our bias is short, but it's slightly tepid because we had a strong sell yesterday, right? So sell, but a little tepid. Then from there, we can try and game out, okay, if we want to go short, how can we do it, right? Well, so if I just look here at the profile, right, you can see there was a liquidity hole here, right? There was a liquidity hole here. So it'd be better if I could have been short from 20, right? It'd be better if I could be short from 20. And I want to wait for that kind of that level to be done with, which for me means between 715 and 730, right? So that's why I was willing to take it there. I could see it like it is a sell. I can see the pressure there. There's a big order. So then there's kind of the order flow thing. So it's just like there's a big order for me to play around. We're hitting the lows and everything. So I might be able to take a short scalp on it coming a little bit lower. And it worked. Right? So that's the way that I trade. And that's the way that I would approach it. Right? But that presupposes that you have a bunch of information that you can combine together at the beginning of the day that will tell you what the flows are actually going to be like to begin with, right? Some days we just don't have that. Some days it's just not like a sell and we don't know what's going on. Or we have an opinion, but the flows are very clearly not in line with that theory. Then I stay on the sidelines. In other words, you need to find data that is predictive. And what like past price and volume did is not very predictive on its own. Nick Timmeros, U.S. home prices rose in May to leave them just 1% below their June 2022 peak, according to Case-Shiller National Index. Home prices went down 0.5% from a year earlier in May, but they're up 2.9% over the last 6 months on an annualized basis. Gotcha. Really? I just saw a tweet from Cat Turd thanking people for subscribing. He says that his paid page is 100% pet pictures. Oh, that's right. Good catch, D. So D is pointing out that there are some Forex option expiries, and there's a relatively large amount, 1.1 billion. Although it sounds like the Australian dollar is the biggest one. Let's see here. Tuesday. Yeah, there's a decent amount there in the Japanese yen. We're at like what, 140.36? Right where it should be. Close to 1440. So that means that the Japanese yen could fall a little bit more if it's going to go right to the option expiry, huh? Well, it does seem like the Japanese yen has been a significant driver here. The Japanese yen has been falling more than the treasuries, you know? Maybe the treasuries are a little bit reluctant to go because they had already sold so much. Because, like, again, when I come and look at the cumulative delta in the treasuries, it's only It's only like 3K off of the highs, right? It's negative. Oh, let's see here. Negative 30, negative 40. Okay, so it's 10Ks off of the high. So that's an average move. That's an average move. But the option, the 4X might be a key driver here, essentially. Oh, interesting. Ron DeSantis was not injured after he was involved in a car crash in Tennessee on Tuesday morning. Treasury's still kind of pressing. And Estefa, good morning. You know, I don't really have a super strong desire to take a trade in this, but I'm feeling kind of positive right now for some reason. Maybe it's because I feel like my video is doing really well. Yeah, you know what? Because I felt so bad about taking so long for that video. I would really like to get the one about price action out. Maybe I can do that today. Take some time to do some writing. Because I want to continue with some of the things that I did in that last video that I think made it good. You know, trying to add more humor in it and things like that. Trying to keep the script more engaging. I don't know, man. This is something in the treasuries that looks like it could slide back up at any moment, but the flow is just not stopping so far. The SPOOs look like there's somebody buying here. Look at that amount that got absorbed across 45.81. I am seeing the dollar move a little bit here again. Let's zoom the dollar out a little bit, or a little bit too zoomed in there. Well, this is going to be the story that all of the politicos are talking about today. I think July heat waves in US and Europe are virtually impossible without human-driven climate change, researchers find. What? I don't listen. It's not the first time. No. So it's like over 100 degrees here in Utah. It's like that every year in July and August. So like in fact, if anything for me here in Utah, this has been a mild summer because the beginning of the summer was mild. Did not really heat up until well after the 4th of July. Yeah, breaking summer is hot, right? I don't know. We have to read the research. We'd have to read the research, right? Whoa, okay. Okay, see, that is exactly what I was worried about. Although, that had to have been like news or something. What was that? I haven't seen... Goldman Sachs cuts 2023 Eurozone growth forecast following weaker economic data, reports Reuters. See it. So that jump comes in across the curve It affected gold. It affected the Japanese yen. No, something happened. Something happened. Because wheat is going nutso. I'm gonna pull up a DOM for wheat. I guess we should be on September, right? Yeah, September. Haven't heard anything from the news squawk yet. Perhaps it was something to do with the Ukraine thing, but maybe it's a positive story, because if it was a bad story, like let's say that there was like an attack there or something like that, right? Then you would expect to see wheat be getting more expensive, but it's not. Wheat is moving down quite aggressively, right? And the treasuries are pushing back really hard here. That must mean maybe they made a deal or something. Okay, so here's a couple of things that we can keep in mind here in this situation. Number one is that when you get a large move like that and the market doesn't seem to know where it comes from, the volatility tends to persist longer. Okay, so this is the first thing. The second thing is that because you had such a jump, there is going to be like relatively weak bids below us, right? So one might be able to say on that gap, I want to reverse and go long treasuries, but we've got to be careful about this tendency for them to maybe fall back to 20. That is knowing. I'm also seeing from my local news, a UPS strike could be just around the corner. I think that I'm going to continue to stay out here. I am tempted, though, to come in short on micros. I will open it up, but I'll disarm it. Oh, you know what? I put that in the wrong channel. EU Agriculture Commissioner Wojciechowski, EU is ready to export almost all of Ukraine's exports via solidarity lanes. Could that be it? I don't know what solidarity lanes are. Okay, here's something from back in May. As part of the EU's solidarity response with Ukraine, European Commission today presented a set of actions to help Ukraine export its agricultural produce. Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine and its blockade of Ukrainian ports, Ukrainian grain and other agricultural goods can no longer reach their destination. To address these obstacles and set up the solidarity lanes, the Commission, together with member states and stakeholders, will work on the following priority actions in the short term: additional freight rolling stock vessels and lorries, capacity of transport networks and transshipment terminals, customs operations and other inspections, storage of goods on the territory of the EU. I don't know if that solidarity lanes was the thing that caused it. It's possible. Putin shut down a certain major food establishment due to human meat contained in their product at the start of the proxy. What? Where are you reading that from? So far, price is just sitting pat here. Looking forward to watching that video you made this. What, the volume profile one? Oh, you haven't watched it yet, D? Made it just for you, man. Oh yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier, and then I forgot what I was talking about. Was that yeah, it took so long on that volume profile video, and it was kind of eating away at me. Like I felt like I was procrastinating it or something. So I think I'm feeling good that I got it out and that it did well. And I'm looking over at the thing overall, and I'm feeling like really good about my content. Like I think that we've done a good job with content, you know. And hopefully we can make this next video even better. Although this next one, there's not as much to say. You know, it's just like, here's a strategy. It kind of did well for a while, and now it doesn't, and here's why. So this impulse to the other side here is bigger. Is bigger than the initial selling. It has not gone quite as far. I would, you know, equal would be up to the open. Since it happened all at once, you probably do get trap traders in there. Uh, 905 probably would have been a lot better than below not 39, but Okay. It's giving strong signs that this has got more to go. Look at how strong the 5 years going. Okay, so now I'm hearing a guy from the EMF saying that it was about Japan. It was about Japan. That could also be the cause of this move. Is if if strength is coming into the Japanese yen, right? So here it is now. I'm seeing it tweeted. IMF chief economist Goran China's our advice to Japan is that monetary policy can remain accommodative, but the economy has to prepare itself for the need to maybe start hiking. At the Hill, Twitter owner Elon Musk explained the rebrand of the social media platform to X, saying the original name no longer made sense as he continued to add new features. Okay, whatever. I still don't like the rebrand. Well, so D, the video that I'm the stuff that I'm giving you, it's a volume profile, not market profile. But like honestly, the difference between them is trivial. Like if you backtest one and then you backtest the same setup and market profile, like the difference between the two of them is going to be negligible. Volume profile just allows you to be more granular. So after that initial jump, I was kind of waiting for maybe it would come back, and it didn't. And now after going flat for a little bit, they took another leap up here. So they did have a little bit of backwash that time. Again, that move happened across the curve, so I don't see any change in the yield curve here. He rebranded to serve his long-term plan. Yeah, but like, okay, so I'm gonna try and argue this, even though it doesn't really matter, right? Okay, so number one, so if you come in and you add to Twitter, like a YouTube-like website and a PayPal-like website, okay, and you add all of these things, I don't see why you can't still call it Twitter. Okay, I think you could have all of those features and still call it Twitter. Number one. Number two, X is just a terrible name. Okay, X is one letter. It I get the whole thing of like it could be anything, I guess, is maybe kind of what they're going at. But it's a terrible, number one, I don't think that you can have one letter be your brand. Well, I take that back. You can have one letter be your brand, but like for that to be your name, I think could cause a lot of problems. And especially the letter X, because X is associated with so many adult websites, right? So, yeah. And then on top of all of that, Twitter as a brand was a very strong brand. People loved the freaking bird thing. They had of the Web 2.0, they had the best logo, they had the best name, right? So I think he's throwing away some, like, the most valuable thing that company has. That's why I don't like it. I don't know, that impulse was pretty wild, right? So the issue that we got now is that there is news in 10 minutes, right? We get consumer confidence and Richmond Fed. We'll see if the book pulls for that, or how much the book pulls for that. So yesterday they pulled a lot more aggressively than they normally would, right? So you still got the currency. You know, so going back to the whole expiration in currencies thing, you know, having that happen to push the yen to the 140 even handle instead of the 140.30 handle that they looked like they were going to expire at makes a big difference, right? So we don't have a clear catalyst there. There's probably 3 candidates. I think one is that it's an endogenous move. One is the comment from the IMF. And the other one is something to do with Ukraine and solidarity lanes. Those are like our 3 theories. I'm not sure if any of those are strong enough to really justify like a jump like the way that we saw it. Except for maybe that it was endogenous. But it sure came in, hit back real hard, right? And then, like, the way that the action has been going since kind of doesn't really give me too much, because, like, it continues to push despite we're not really getting much headlines here. Nobody's really sure what caused it, right? So that kind of has me leaning towards maybe it was endogenous. They're still hanging out at that 24.5 area pretty well. So if we wanted to take something here, we're probably okay position. Okay, so that's a little bit more of the pullback that we would have liked to have seen. Now wheat is jumping back up. Yeah. Okay, do you see wheat going nuts? Yep. I'm just getting over the newswire now, a headline about that British intelligence has information that suggests that Russia is planning to start attacking shipping in the Black Sea. That was the headline that I just heard. I'm not seeing it on Twitter yet. But you can see wheat is reacting very, very strongly to that headline, right? They came all the way from the lows back up to the highs there. Man, wheat is a slippery market. Now the treasuries are kind of still in a, like, they've come back a little bit. So the combination of them coming back, me knowing what the headline is, thinking that that headline could cause flight to safety into the treasuries, I'm willing to take a little shot here. Although it does not look like my positioning was perfect. Now, I'm not seeing it more widely on Twitter, but this seems to make sense. Like, the treasuries initially jumping off of that headline, I think would fit, right? And then the whole market not having it, you know, that seems to fit. That video on volume weighted thing was cool. I like learning about new things. And oh, thank you so much, Keller. Yeah, I've had so many people come in and say they liked the video today. So this is great. Don't apologize. You have to pay for your Doge habit. Well, Doge is doing really good this week, isn't it? So the whole thing about X makes it, everybody thinks that Elon is going to use Dogecoin as the backing for X. I think it's just so ridiculous, but he may actually just do it. He is actually just that crazy. Yeah, Britain has info indicating Russian military could start attacks against civilian shipping in the Black Sea. So now I am starting to see others pick it up. I wonder, though, if that was the headline, why we initially started selling and now is flipping, right? Little suspicious. Okay, well, so far Treasury is not cooperating, coming back to that initial kind of area for the moment. we've got consumer confidence. So I'm not, the liquidity has thinned out a little bit, but it's not as crazy as it was the other day, right? Say we go lower from here, just a random coin flip. Okay, well, let's see what consumer confidence in the Richmond Fed does. I don't like to be in a position here, but I am, and it doesn't look like this is going to be too big of a mover. Okay, so we got -9 for Richmond Fed, -9 versus an expected -10. I get what got it early. It's weird. Okay, now they are thinning out. Okay, 117 versus 112. Wait. The spread there. Okay. Liquidity coming back in micros at least. Enough for me to do a reasonable puke if I wanted to at least. Okay, so CV consumer confidence at 117 versus 112. That is better than expected, so I would expect to see some pressure in the treasuries from that. I don't know if that's a big enough change to be like a game changer here, and I'm still more concerned about the headline that we got about the Black Sea shipping. So if Russia attacks his ship, that will just completely throw the whole market out of whack, right? That will become like the dominant headline at that point, I believe. So you have some ABC. What is ABC? But thanks for stopping by, D. I think they're growing desperate in their measures as the war advances. They get more and more frustrated. Yeah, I am a little I'm a little weirded out by what's happening, to be honest. I don't understand it. I guess, like we said yesterday, it could be one of those like escalate to de-escalate sort of things, but like, you know, if the cost of bread starts going through the roof, you know, I think that really shifts the political winds in Western countries, and I don't think it necessarily does so in Putin's favor, you know. GM warned of future possible strike from the union workers. Their negotiations on the high priority. That's true too. Oh, I don't know. I don't think they are bluffing. I think that if British intelligence has information that Russia is probably either seriously considering or has already made the decision, I think. I mean, that's the way that it's been. That's the way that it was with this started, was like we got the intelligence and we're all like, well, this doesn't make sense. I don't know why. And then it happens, right? Well, I tell you what, man, if you want the wild and fast game, wheat is the place right now. Yeah, I'm probably correct. But I still don't understand the motivation. So we need to speak to a foreign policy expert. I think what you're saying about that, they're growing desperate, like it really does feel to me like that the war has kind of like come to a standstill. I can totally see the Russians saying like something needs to change here. Oh, add to that the high heat in wheat producing states and countries is on the rise. Yeah. It kind of presents an interesting conundrum for us in the treasuries here, though, doesn't it? Because, like, on one hand, I can kind of see some things suggesting that some risks on the horizon. Okay, wheat prices rising, that could really hurt the economy overall. The monetary policy is kind of all set for equities to, I think, become weaker here, right? Equities are already kind of in a spot where I think that they're vulnerable to some downside, right? But then at the same time, like, a lot of those things are inflationary too. So what's the correct, like, long-term call in the treasuries? Do rates come down to support the economy, or do they have to stay high to deal with the inflation? Well, I suppose that if wheat prices are going up, that the Federal Reserve does not necessarily keep rates high just for that. That's my guess. So I think that the net effect would probably be slightly lower rates. And on any kind of war headline, you'll see a flight to safety to the treasuries, right? You'll see bidding in treasuries. So you don't eat whole grain bread? Biggest winner right now is Kappa. Kappa followed by silver. So gold was getting killed earlier, and gold has come all the way back. Oh, hey. Seem to like this range here at 20, but they may be getting ready to pounce on it to the lowers. I don't know. I am seeing some selling coming in here, though it's very tepid, and still seems like there's some sort of a hole at 20. I guess I should add that the S&P 500 has been relatively tight today, hasn't it? As long as they keep the price of beef and cheese low, I'm okay. Well, I wouldn't be too confident about... I mean, if the price of wheat goes up, won't the price of beef go up too? There you go. So it's still kind of dancing around 20. You see like that low, like look, nobody puts a bid or an offer for a second. That's a little fishy. Given this situation. Seems like market makers are a little nervous. High rates for other reasons. Fed has an announcement tomorrow. Markets are quiet with barely any basis point moves. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, yesterday we moved 9 basis points, right? Today we moved maybe 2 basis points. Hi, Francesco. How are you doing? Welcome back. No, I think that the headline was the Russia thing, but I don't think we can be 100% sure still, right? Yeah, like the market makers aren't very interested. At least they weren't right there. Definitely not. Is it that they're not interested, or is it that they're nervous? I don't know. It seems really, really bizarre to me that you would kind of have that that activity just kind of disappear after you just had relatively reasonable mover of a news, and you know it's been moving around, and they were kind of like going at towards lows. So like you start coming down towards lows again, and then like the interest dies out is a little bizarre, right? But a lot traded at 20. Like there's a real liquidity hole there, and it seems that for whatever reason the market makers are reluctant to provide liquidity there. And you can see it's been able to dance all the way up to like 21 without much difficulty, right? But there's the liquidity sitting there at 21.5. So it would be difficult for them to get above 21.5 unless there is like some real buying lurking out there that we don't know about. But given that things are kind of a little bit tight and that it seems like the interest is dying out, you would think that it'd be unlikely to get, all of a sudden get those 3,000 contracts that you would need to bust out there. Unless Ukraine thing, right? Before it's worth any attempt to what? We need to see 50 to 70. That's a lot. What, are you saying that you want to see treasuries at 4.75? Like, okay, so they're trying to push that top end in the range. Let's see. We traded decent volume there at 21 and 21.5. Maybe it's there. You think that Putin is a bad person? I would think that he is a bad person, but I think the reality is that I don't have enough information to really know. That seems like a question that is outside of my expertise because I don't know him, you know? From what I've seen I think that the actions that I've seen here do suggest that he is. Because I just cannot justify this invasion in Ukraine. But you know, like one of the issues that you get in this situation is that it's those people that believe something that just isn't so that are like the most dangerous, right? It was like, so I was talking about that. Okay, so something that I saw on social media that really got me riled up for some reason was that there was some stop oil protesters were blocking a road. They were sitting in the street and preventing the cars from moving forward. And there was a woman yelling at them saying that there is a baby in one of the cars that needs to get to the hospital and that their selfishness is going to kill people. Or if I was in that situation and I knew that a child's life was at risk, I would not hesitate to come in and start knocking people, you know? Like these people, they eventually pulled the protesters out of the road. I would be like yelling aggressively at the top of my lungs, saying, yeah, "You're not going to give you any warning. You move now," and showing people what's going to happen. Like, because people's lives are at risk, you know. Like, I'm willing to be an asshole and maybe make a few mistakes if it means that it saves somebody's life, you know. And probably in a situation like that, I could, you know, if I come in and I'm aggressive and I start punching protesters and stuff like that, and it all goes viral, that probably would be a bad thing for me. I could probably get, you know, charged with assault and things like that, right? It wouldn't necessarily be a good thing for me, right? So, but why would I do that? Well, because I think that somebody's life is at risk, right? So when people think, right, they think that what they're doing is in people's best interests and that like lives are at stake and so on and so forth, they could do things that are really crazy, right? And maybe that's what's happening with Putin, is that his ideology has just blinded him to how terrible of decisions he's making. But I think that the net effect of his actions is absolutely evil, right? We need to kind of clear above us here, now that we've reached the 23 area. Yeah, Ferrari wheat is moving. That's my I have it up here on the left. Let's change the head. Let's change today's title. What should we call? What should we say? Wheat soars as Russia. On Black Sea Fears. Okay, so they did get beyond the liquidity that was just above us that I was concerned could be difficult to get through. But now they've kind of paused, so. Yes, I was also interested in the part of the video where you talk about the actual execution and meta orders. For example, when you mentioned that they dial down the aggressiveness of the execution when they manage to create a liquidity hole so that they can execute there. Yes. Yes. So for that one, I'm kind of like correlating a bunch of kind of things together. So like with the Almgren Chris, right? So this is kind of how Almgren Chris works, is that they say, okay, you execute a certain amount, and then you back off, and then you wait for, you know, then you execute another wave, right? And so that's kind of what Almgren Chris suggests, right? But I am at the same time kind of incorporating other information that I know, including some of the things that I saw when I was at the bank that kind of helped me understand the execution person's side of it, right? Wouldn't the dollar go bid on a safe? Oh, that's a good point. Okay, so it seems to me, so we're not 100% sure what's going on, Ferrari, but let me just try and catch you up here. When we were down towards, so we started out selling in the treasuries. There was a really big order at 106.25 in the 5-year. There is an auction in the 5-year, by the way, too. So that's not uncommon to see like big orders and big icebergs and stuff over there, right? Then we pushed through that and kind of came back up. And then after it had been sitting there for a while, we saw a pop across the board in all of the treasuries. The and all of the currencies and gold and silver and all of that seemed to react to it as well. Although it was maybe the flows more pronounced in the treasuries, right? Then we had a couple of headlines that we had heard. One of the headlines was about the IMF suggesting to Japan that they may need to prepare themselves for when they need to start raising interest rates. Another headline that we had heard was relating to the Black Sea, with British intelligence saying that they have information that suggests that Russia is going to start ramping up attacks there or pressure there. Okay. So it could be endogenous. It could be one of those headlines. It could be something else that we don't have yet. Okay. But my theory, my running theory, is that it is the Russia thing. Okay. So if it's the Russia thing, then you see a flight to safety into treasuries. Yes. Wouldn't you also see some strength in the dollar, though? Well, I would think so, but the dollar did fall there, didn't it? So I'm not sure I can explain that one. But I suppose that would be one possible sign that that theory is wrong, and that maybe it was the IMF comments that moved it. And that's why the Japanese yen appreciated against the dollar fell, and the treasuries rose. That one with the correlations would make a little bit more sense. Although I don't know if that would make much sense in terms of like the degree of a move that we saw and everything. And I do think that overall that this Black Sea situation could be a problem. Thanks for the answer. Yeah. We'll do this. That is exactly what we're here for, right? What's the actual problem? What in the Black Sea? Is that they're going to start attacking shipping in the Black Sea, right? They're going to blockade Ukraine. They're going to blockade Ukraine, which is a big supplier of wheat, especially to Europe and Africa. Well, I wouldn't say just U.S. ships, but I would say ships from all. I would hope that they would avoid doing it to a U.S. ship, but this is what I was talking about yesterday. Is that, like, again, U.S. geopolitical power is based primarily on the relationships that it's built with nations around the world that allow for free trade and allow us to be a consumer nation that gets cheap goods from the rest of the world. And what's going on in Ukraine is kind of a direct challenge to that. So one of the things that you will see, as it is with Iran and probably here with the Black Sea as well, is that when you start challenging free shipping, that's when like shit really hits the fan. If Russia did start attacking like NATO civilian ships, but civilian ships from NATO countries, that would be a major deal, and they're kind of suggesting that they might do that, right? The dollar is sold off for another reason. It could be, but I mean, those moves all happened at the same time, right? Like when we got that pop in the treasuries, the dollar started selling. And it was somewhat limited. But you know what? I don't think it was that, actually, Gary, because look. Okay. Big impulse down in the dollar, but not really in the euro. The euro did eventually get going. But then when you bring the 6J over here and you look at the 6J, you can see the 6J did a V, right? So that's when it's like, oh, okay, maybe it was the IMF comments, right? It's a difficult one. It's probably like all three of these things are going on and being involved in the markets. And how it all plays out is a little unclear. Okay, so we did come back a little bit. I am seeing some icebergs on the offer side. It was stuck at 22.5. I'm not liking what I'm seeing in the flows too much here. Okay, so I'm gonna exit that at a small loss. So what I wanted to see was, I did see it come back to where I wanted, but I wanted to see it then start pushing up again, and it's starting to come back. That's not quite what we're expecting. Now over here, because I've built all of this buffer here, I can continue to screw around with it, right? But this dollar hasn't been for the last year. I mean, like, the dollar over 100 is really strong, right? And it's been like this now for like 18 months, right? Well, I think I did the right thing there. I can still try and finagle a position if I really want, but... because I thought that I had a headline that could really move them. If we did, then after that short pause, it should have kept going. It's not. We're still unclear about what's going on here. So I can sit here and wait. Maybe we get more over the new squawk that kind of helps us. Oh, okay. Let's think on a Plaza Accord, join together. Well, that would be a ways off, right? Definitely an exciting day today, though, isn't it? It's like tomorrow could be wild. Have you thought about getting a fourth monitor? Okay, so every time that I consider the getting another monitor idea, I'm like, no, that wouldn't work. I don't know how I would make it work, to be honest with you. Because, you know, I need to be able to allow my camera to be above the monitor and the light above the monitor. I would have to double stack my monitors, and I just don't want to double stack my monitors. I think that for me to get into that area, I would need to have a very, very different setup, you know? Like, I could do something like put the camera like really off to the side, you know, but then you'd be seeing more the back of my head, which isn't very fun, you know. Or I could put it down here and could be looking up at me. I don't know how you guys would feel about that, but I want to be on the same level as you guys, you know, because I feel like this is a collaborative effort. I hate the idea of like being a towering, imposing figure over the stream, but you know, and then it would mess with my speakers and stuff like that. So I think that to do a setup like that, I would probably need a double PC setup. Like, I would need to get rid of the hutch across from me and have another computer set up, and have one computer be the trading computer and the other computer be the audio computer. Or move to a different place that affords me more flexibility on that. I really don't ever want to move, because we've built a lot of equity up in this house and we have a good position. We don't have to move. And so I think that I should be able to save and do a lot where I'm at. But I do wish I had a bit larger pantry and a larger laundry room and like a second room for an office. They do have, well, I have a mount that allows me to move the camera around quite a bit. So I could put the camera anywhere that I want. It's just, I don't think that any position would be better than the one that I have. Anyways, I would love to have a setup where it's like a triple room setup. So like one room is like an office, and it would be like an office and a secretary. There'd be like two desks in there, one that could be for one for me and one for the secretary. And if people came over and I was talking to them, I'd use that room. And then next room would be like the trade room, where we'd have a room about this size set up specifically for trading, right? And then the next room after that would be like a library, right? And then somewhere else, I would have a different room completely separate for audio production. That's if I was a billionaire. All right. But the thing that bothers me right now, the thing that like I think has the biggest, I know this is so trivial. This is how great I have it right now, right? Is like they do lots of laundry and then like it all ends up on my bed. And what I really want is I want like a laundry room that's like a real room with like a table in the middle that has enough room that like 2 or 3 people can sit around the table and fold laundry, and you have enough spot for all of the different piles of clothes that you need. If you want to get views, you need to tower over people. Where's your suit? I do. I need to update the wardrobe. You know what? Here's the issue that I have with the wardrobe is that men's fashion is just lame. Like, it's all... Okay, so like if you go on TikTok and you're like, oh, don't wear a polo, wear this. It's just, it seems like you can't win. No matter what you wear as a guy, it's just going to be plain and boring, unless it's a suit. And I don't want to wear a suit every day. I'm not sure if wearing a suit makes sense for this, you know? So I've kind of come to, we'll just get plain shirts that are made out of really nice fabric, I guess. But, you know, if you want to stand out and you want to there be something about your appearance that attracts people to the stream, what would you do? It kind of seems like my options are limited. So then I thought, well, maybe if I start wearing a watch. So I went and I bought a cheat watch just to see if I could handle having a watch on me all the time, and if you could even see it in the stream. And the answer is that you don't even see it on the stream, so it doesn't matter. Right? Yeah, so did you try posting a link and it didn't let you? Because I thought I changed a setting that allowed that. Hold on a second. I swear on my life I changed that setting so that it should allow everybody to post links, but maybe not. I honestly, I don't know if I trust you with a wrench right now, though, to be honest. I'm sure you understand. Community. I swear there's like a... Oh, URLs sent in live chat are already blocked. If you select this option, new comments with hashtags and URLs will be held for review. Okay, so hold on a second. If I do that, just wear a shirt and a tie and keep shorts on. Who will you hire from here? Oh man, when I become a billionaire? Oh man, probably all of you. Right? So the big thing is I want to get into having like a commodities trading pool and a fund. And so I think that I would need like you know, a lot of analysts, and you could have a pretty large business for that. Okay, so I did that. So Gary, if you try posting a link now, what does it do? Does it show it to me? Really, you could just put spaces around the periods and that should put it in there just fine. Okay, so now they're back. Dude, now it's going. Yeah, and look at the dollar, it's moving. It's still kind of like where it was. Are you saying my dollar is frozen? Oh, yeah, I think you might be right. Oh, it's not frozen, it's just I had it miss. Jeez, okay. And the Japanese yen is taking another jump up. So I'm considering like, okay, this is a continuation of the trade that I was trying to get into. It's back to kind of where it started from. Do we get back in? But this is like some wavy volatility and like very unclear. So on this side, I don't think that that's ever going to get filled, so I can get rid of that and just kind of let this sim trade ride. This is a good example of how your ability to take on extra risk can help you so much, right? Because I was able to get my break-even point to be below the low. So I can just put that. Okay, so I'm still hearing stuff from IMF So that might be what's driving it. So maybe the reason why it's so choppy is because it's multiple different headlines affecting the market. Sure does feel like it's starting to get super choppy, right? I must be feeling the pressure because I'm sweating a little bit more today than usual. I just lifted my hands up and I'm like, oh yeah, it's getting a little wet there. Good thing you can't smell it. Oh my gosh, yeah. So yesterday, I'm changing my couch, and so I got my brother and my parents over to move the couch, and I go outside and it just doesn't smell right, man. And I'm like, what is this? It smells like lake stink. It smells like something weird. It's like vaguely familiar, but I've never smelled anything that smells exactly like this. Couldn't figure it out. What the hell is this smell, man? I'm not the only one that smells this, right? It's not like something with me. Does it smell like that up at your house? Or are you sure? Because there was a storm blowing in. I thought maybe it was the storm blowing things in. Because, you know, it had been kind of like you could smell the pollen in the air and things like that, right? Like, no, they didn't know. And so they just kind of... And now, long after the fact, I was like, you know what? It must have been... The neighbors must have been smoking weed. The neighbors must have been smoking weed, and it was like really shitty weed or something. Because, like, I definitely know what that dank smell smells like, and it was not that, but it was kind of like that. So maybe it was just a type of weed I hadn't smelled before. Or maybe it was that they did smoke weed, but then they smoked incense and a bunch of other things to try and cover it up. Because I started to smell things that smelled like spices to me, you know? So I think it was weed. I don't like the smell of weed, says Lucas. Yeah. So the way that I learned what weed smelled like was, I remember there was this house we went to as a missionary, and the kid was bragging to us about how he smoked a carton in a day. And there was like weed crushed up on the floor. It was a dirty place, right? And then I was like, oh, that's what it is. It smells like a herb, but like a really shitty smelling herb. And when you light it up, if it's really dank, there's that dank smell that is just, it almost smells like cow manure, vaguely like cow manure or something like that, right? But this stuff didn't smell like that. So that's why I'm wondering, do different varieties of weed smell a little bit differently? I don't know. That's just the word that people use. Like, I'm at a concert, and then you smell that. Like I said, it's almost like vaguely like cow manure. And they say that's really dank. So that's why I call it dank. But what I smelled yesterday was not dank. It was like the opposite. It was like the other side of the spectrum. Make sure they don't burn down your house by being next to you. Well, I think it's one of the kids. I don't know. There's weird stuff going on at that house sometimes. Like I remember one day my wife was concerned because the kid, they didn't always have a fence, and there used to be like this empty lot behind it. And my wife said that the guy was like, one of the kids was like doing some sort of ritual in the backyard. that was a little bit really weird, I guess. Well, I don't know what they smoke in my state. That's the thing is, I've never smoked it. I've definitely been in places though where they smoked it, right? Like I've been at raves where it always happens at a rave. It's like you're at a rave, everybody's having fun, and then all of a sudden the smell comes in and everybody's like, oh, man, just everybody can smell it, right? So that's definitely happened, right? But I don't know, like, the variety of weeds that they've got or how those smell differently or something. I have no clue. That's like the thing is that what I smelled yesterday seemed to be different from what I had been smelling before. So maybe it's a different variety of weed and they smell slightly differently. I don't know. But I do think that that's what it was. That combined with like the lake stink and them doing incense and everything else probably kind of like mixed it enough for me to be like, meh. So I don't remember. I don't think that we have that. Possession of 1 ounce is a Class A misdemeanor. I think that we have like legal cannabis and stuff, but not actual legal weed. Oh, no, you know what? It was not too long ago that went through in like a voter initiative, wasn't it? So you can have medical cannabis. But I've never seen a dispensary. You smell it on every block in Miami. Oh, it's definitely only for medical reasons in my state. I'm really tempted to come in and do it again, but I'm like realizing it's almost 9 o'clock. So really what I should be thinking about is how am I going to get out of this? If there's a big order right there, I may even have to come across here and take 23 because it's probably going to be difficult to get filled at 23.5. But it would be a good time for me to put the order there because I don't know if I'll get filled. And I'm not going to mess with the sim trade after our trading session. Okay, that was good. That helps. Anyways, the whole point of that story was I felt so dumb for being like, oh man, what is that smell? And for it taking me so long to figure out what probably was. Because they've smoked out and back before, and I was like, oh, they're definitely smoking, right? Hey, I got filled. That wasn't too bad. Yeah. Like my most experience with weed was I had a couple of friends that in the rave scene that they got into doing dabs. And when they started doing that, like before that they seemed like such smart, bright young people, and then after that it was just like stupidity all the time. It was like I really felt like once they started doing dabs it changed them in a negative way. And that was kind of when I made this shift that was like, well, okay, so I kind of stopped doing the rave stuff as much because I was single. It's kind of the opposite of what you think you would do, right? So I had become single. So, it was like during the recovery phase, I did a couple of gigs and stuff like that. And it was okay. But then I was like, well, I need to get remarried and gonna have to build relationships and things like that. And this is not the place for me to do it. Like I really love the friends that I have, But to build the life that I need, I'm gonna have to hang around with a different set of people, right? So that was, I kind of stopped doing that stuff as much. And then after I got married, then I started trading. And then it was like, well, I love waking up early and trading way more than I love DJing. So pretty much just gave it up. At that point, look at the people who regularly use Burns. No, I don't think that they did do the poppers at raves. That's kind of the weird thing. I mean, maybe they did when I wasn't around or later on, but they weren't doing that stuff. So supposedly in Utah, MDMA use is like way higher than it is in other places per capita. So I don't know what's with that, but there was definitely, when you went to raves, especially the big ones, oh, there was definitely people rolling. That or there's this venue in Utah called, I think most people will know it by the name In the Venue, or Club Sound it was called at one point. I don't know what it is right now, but it's kind of a weird place because it's got like it's got a front stage, and there is a balcony, but then like the area that goes underneath of the balcony goes back like way back. And it is set up like a club. So even though they have like a front stage area that they run concerts on, there's also, when you get into the area under the balcony, there is a lot of seating, and it is a rave club. 100% it is a rave club. I mean, like, they have the subwoofers in the backs that are in positions so that you could sit on or in the subwoofer if you wanted to, for instance, right? Plenty of areas where you could be secluded from other people, and plenty of areas that are kind of like a little circle dipped into the ground, so that for people to do like the dance circle, or to be doing light shows with and things like that. So there's always a lot of people doing the shoestring light show sort of a thing. Like, it was like a real thing. And so yeah, I saw a lot of people that were rolling, right? Yeah. And a lot of them were often very much out of it too. So they weren't just doing MDMA. I mean, they definitely got the MDMA people that were like really friendly, but there was a lot of people that just seemed like they were completely out of it, and he'd have to check on them and stuff. So I don't know why it's like that in Utah. Some people say that it's like if you're LDS and then you leave the church, that you go wild, but it's higher. The Utah rave, and then the other side of it is that we have a production company that brings rave shows here to Utah that is just really good at what they do. So they built the scene up. So the scene in Utah is like a top 5 scene. It's like, it goes like Miami, Chicago, New York, Detroit, LA. So maybe not top 5, top 10. And then I think you'd have to say like maybe Seattle, or Portland. And I say LA, you probably have to include like the whole Bay Area in that, right? And then it's Utah. Oh, actually, Denver probably beats us too. Then it's Utah. So it's weird. It's a weird thing about Utah that not very many people know. They want to hide in those areas so you don't see there's not. Yeah. This whole thing is like their face looks like they're melting like in the first Indiana Jones movie, right? This is a pop. No, so Mormon culture has always been very strong on dancing. So when the LDS Church first came around, in a time where all of the Protestants churches were against dancing, Mormons very fully embraced it. So it's always been that there's been a big building there for dancing. When it was like the swing era, the Great Saltaire was like a big deal, and it was like the biggest dance floor in the country. So, you know, it's only a little hop and a skip over to raving. And I honestly, I feel like that a lot of the music fits in really well with LDS culture as well. Because, you know, like trance music in particular is very much about like feelings and like positive vibes and positive things and stuff, right? So I think that a lot of LDS people identify with that kind of music. It was way more common than you'd think. But that is just to say it's still very much a niche thing, but it's a big niche relative to the population. Like the ravers per capita is much higher than it is in many parts of the country, right? In Utah, especially when you compare it to like Texas and the South and stuff like that, right? Like the movie Footloose, it could be. I think one of the things that you definitely get is that the cultural influence that the church has in Utah is extremely strong, and it takes a certain kind of person to be willing to push against all cultural guidelines and stuff, right? And that's the kind of person that will totally go to a rave and start and go rolling. Well, I'm glad I didn't do anything because we basically just came back to that 3894, which was where my original position was. So I could have waited and gotten out of break even here, but I only lost 5. But now it's going flat, and cumulative delta is actually dropping during this flat, but I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all. So, and it's definitely was like flat into the rest of my sessions. So, well, yeah, it's definitely a stronger scene in LA, right? And Vegas is getting a pretty good scene now too. But per capita, it's unusually large. See, like the thing in LA is there's just so many people to pick from that you're able to get yourself a good scene, and the culture in California is favorable to it, right? So if you go to a place like Houston, okay, well, you have a lot of people to draw from, but the culture is set up very much against rave. You know, in those areas you have like straight up anti-rave laws, right? Yeah, Vegas is when I first came in, it was not like that in Vegas. I mean, like, obviously there's always crazy things going on in Vegas, but like the EDM club scene in Vegas wasn't that great, right? And then I want to say sometime around 2010, 2010-ish, it was like all of the sudden, all of the big hotels put huge investments into clubs, right? So you kind of had this beginning slide of it, and then they built that freaking chandelier thing. You ever seen that? I forget which club it is, but there's one club in there that has this giant moving chandelier. That's insane, right? And then that's when it really picked up in Vegas. The other thing was that like the underground in Utah used to be really strong until there was that police raid. And basically what happened was the underground promoters all went legal. So that we didn't have to do that anymore. So it was a good resolution in the end. But for the people that liked the underground shows, they used to be a really strong thing here in Utah too. Like even the burner crowd, there's a burner crowd that runs multiple burner style events. Remember the influencers who would close the clubs in Vegas, like Paris Hilton, etc., etc. Yeah, you know, like the thing that like blows my mind is that part of the business model for these is, you know, bottle service, and people spend like crazy amounts at bottle service, and I just can't imagine spending money like that for a party or a concert, man. Like thousands of dollars? No way. That just seems like such a waste of capital to me. Anyways, it's time for me to get going, guys. I see you tomorrow for the Federal Reserve. It's going to be I think tomorrow's going to be an interesting day. And we're going to keep an eye on this wheat. If you haven't seen it, go over and check out my volume profile video. And stick with us on Discord. I continue to post stuff. You know, I post some stuff on Twitter, but I post in Discord mostly. So, see you tomorrow. In the meantime, stay excellent, team.